we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next.
We have known all along this was going to get worse, especially as more people are tested, and it certainly has. In some states and cities, the running tally of people infected by coronavirus has doubled, over 3,600 here in New York City alone. And
it's only Spain's second state of emergency since becoming a democracy, and this is what it looks like. The country's reported a jump of more than 2,000 in coronavirus cases in 24 hours. Now people will only be allowed to leave their homes to buy food and medicine, to get to work, hospitals or the bank, or to care for the young and the elderly.
En tercer lugar, les anuncio que durante la vigencia del estado de alarma,
I would like to announce that during the period of the state of alert, people will only be able to circulate on public roads for the organisation of the following activities. Firstly, the acquisition of food, pharmaceutical products and basic necessities. Secondly, visits to health centres, services and establishments. Trips to workplace to carry out your work, professional or business activities.
Tonight, inside intensive care units across the country, the CDC says nearly half of all coronavirus patients fighting for their lives are younger than 65. While often deadly for the elderly, the virus is now taking more lives of those who are not senior citizens. The young not only catching the illness at higher and higher rates, but also spreading it.
Oh, on the worst day, it was a 10. It was rough.
Matt Schulte has had the virus for over a week.
It feels like my lungs have fluid in them. The air feels thin and it just feels very heavy on my chest.
2 Carnival cruise liners out of the port of Miami this week had to divert from stops in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, where officials wouldn't allow passengers to disembark. This after Jamaica and the Cayman Islands also denied entry to an MSC cruise ship last week after the company reported an ill crew member. Turns out it was just the flu, but officials in Ocho Rios and Grand Cayman were unwilling to take a chance. The liner continued on to Cancun, Mexico, before returning to Miami. It's an example of the expanded restrictions on cruise ships as fears over the spread of coronavirus continue. Trinidad and Tobago, along with Jamaica, are not allowing anyone into the countries who recently visited Italy, South Korea, Singapore, Iran, and of course China. Same with the Cayman Islands, where entry is being denied to anyone who visited China in the last 2 weeks. The Caribbean has 1 confirmed case of coronavirus in the Dominican Republic and 3 in the French territories of St. Bartholomew and St. Martin.
To see and hear what's happening in one of the world's most powerful and enigmatic countries, foreign media in China provide a window for the world. That window has just been made smaller, with the ousting of correspondents from 3 of America's best-known newspapers, the New York Times, Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal. China's foreign ministry says the crackdown is in response to unfair treatment by the US.
China is not one to start trouble, but will not blink if trouble comes its way.
At least 13 foreign journalists are affected. They're banned not only from reporting in mainland China, but in Hong Kong and Macau as well. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is hoping Beijing will reconsider.
The Chinese will tell you that they want more information, people to know more about their country, and yet they continue to take actions like the one you see today, where they deny the world the capacity to know what's really going on inside of their country.
Earlier this month, the US government capped the number of Chinese reporters working in the States for 5 state-run outlets, including CGTN.
China Global Television Network, or CGTN.
US-based staff numbers were cut from 160 to 100. That followed the expulsion in February of 3 Wall Street Journal correspondents from Beijing, following an editorial titled, "China is the real sick man of Asia." That was seen as retaliation for the Trump administration's decision to force Chinese media firms to register as foreign entities in the US.
There's been a desire to get China to react, to do something which will paint China in the international eyes as the aggressor, as the authoritarian government.
As officials in Washington state scramble to build a 200-bed hospital on a soccer field, the number of coronavirus cases nationwide is hitting yet another milestone, climbing to over 13,000. More than half the cases in the country come from just 10 counties across 3 states, New York, Washington, and California.
The number of test positives is increasing.
Today at the White House, a call for social media influencers to warn the young about the virus. The governor of Maryland with a more pointed message amid spring break scenes like these.
If you are engaged in this type of activity, you are in violation of state law and you are endangering the lives of your fellow Marylanders.
With the State Department making an unprecedented move, telling Americans not to travel abroad, Carnival Cruise Lines is offering their ships to serve as floating hospitals to relieve stress on a burdened onshore medical system. Now, the first two members of Congress, Mario Diaz-Balart and Ben McAdams, have tested positive, while in New Jersey, so have 7 members of the Fusco family. 73-year-old Grace died just hours after her son and 5 days after her daughter. Cases in neighboring New York are skyrocketing.
Nobody can tell you when this is going to end. Nobody can say 2 months, 4 months, 9 months. Nobody.
They're fighting a war here and they're losing. The sheer numbers of people succumbing to the coronavirus is overwhelming every hospital in northern Italy. The staff are working flat out trying to keep these people from deteriorating further. They're trying to stop them from dying. This isn't an intensive care unit, it's an emergency ward. The ICU is full. People have only just arrived here and they're in terrible shape. This is an absolute constant. This killer pandemic is virtually out of control. The patients are literally gasping for air. The plastic bubbles the staff struggle to communicate through attempt to equalize the air pressure in the lungs.
The view from 10,000 feet? Across North America, the coronavirus is idling one auto plant after another. At Ford, where one worker has tested positive for the virus, all assembly lines in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico shut down on Thursday. General Motors follows suit on Friday, and Fiat Chrysler is staggering closures throughout the end of the month. Honda, Nissan, Hyundai, and Tesla plants will all be closed by mid-April. Desperate auto dealers are offering bargains to buyers willing to brave the trip outdoors.
Nobody expected this. Nobody thought they'd be treating so many so quickly. And it's not like flu. It is chronic pneumonia, and it is killing hundreds each day.
There are now 15 patients.
The doctors say they've seen nothing like it before and are warning other countries, especially the United Kingdom, that they will see it as well.
People who keep describing this as like flu. It's worse than that, no?
No, it's totally another thing. I think it's most pneumonia, more pneumonia than flu, because most people get pneumonia, and as I said before, it's a very severe pneumonia, and so it's a massive strength for every health system, because we see every day 50 to 60 patients who come to our emergency department with pneumonia, and most of them are so severe they need very high FiO2 or oxygen, and so we have to reorganize our emergency room and our hospital in 3 levels of intensity, as you saw.
This is the main hospital in Bergamo in Lombardy province. It's one of the most advanced hospitals in Europe. But it's the most hard hit of all the hospitals in Italy. The town is the center of the epidemic here.
2, 3.
Somebody looking there at, oh my goodness, a regional newspaper in northern Italy, and it is just capturing so vividly the grim toll that the coronavirus pandemic has taken in Italy. That's the obituary section. Well, that's extraordinary. It was 2 pages in February, 10 pages this past week. The latest numbers out of Italy, more than 1,800 people have died. It remains the #1 focal point in Europe. Spain following, though, very close behind Italy, and these are major hotspots.
This isn't a ward, this is a waiting room. Wherever you go, people are on gurneys, in corridors, in meeting rooms, they're everywhere. All the medical staff urge other nations to see what's happening and lock their nations down right now or face this.
In the capital, Madrid, people are still venturing out. But with many businesses already shut, the city's unusually quiet.
Vivo en centro, me gusta centro. I live in the city centre and I like to see it empty. I like to see that. I think people are being responsible and the people who have to stay at home are doing it.
The owner of this hotel is offering hundreds of rooms to Madrid's regional government so it can treat coronavirus patients. While in Seville, the mayor has cancelled all Easter week processions, just the latest setback to its tourist industry. In the Italian capital, Rome, people stuck indoors have been showing their appreciation of doctors and nurses fighting against coronavirus. Theirs is the worst hit country after China, and the death toll is well over 1,000 already. With the entire country in lockdown, normal life has come to a halt. And France is now closing all bars, restaurants and cinemas and asking people to work from home and avoid non-essential visits. It comes after the number of coronavirus cases doubled to more than 4,500 in just 3 days.
All places that aren't essential to the life of the country will be shut. These include restaurants, cafes, cinemas and nightclubs. Places of worship will remain open, but gatherings and ceremonies will have to be postponed.
Germany, with Europe's largest population, has recorded just a handful of deaths so far. Now the government's urging people returning from Italy, Switzerland and Austria to self-isolate for up to 2 weeks. On Saturday, Spain-bound planes belonging to a low-cost British airline actually turned round mid-air. Now the UK government seems set to do its own about-turn, reacting to moves already made by business and public pressure. With all elite football in England suspended until at least early April and the London Marathon postponed to October, the cabinet set to ban mass gatherings in the coming week.